Hey guys, so I know that you wanted a Flask tutorial, so yeah, here I'm gonna make something along those lines, I guess. So a quick overview of Flask. Flask, I feel, is that one topic that everyone just kind of doesn't study because it's so vague in terms of the way that it's being taught. Plus, it takes a lot of information across multiple different disciplines of computing and then tries to unite them all in a very, very concise manner, which a lot of people may not really enjoy. And also, the questions are dynamic, so it's very hard to look at like trends, for example. So yeah, I think that that's probably one of the reasons why most of the people I know didn't really study for Flask that much. Judge. Wait, I will rename that. Oh my god. Okay, so inside of your main folder that you've created, you basically need a few things that are important. One, you need to add your Python file into this folder itself. So let me just create a new file. I will make it a Python file. And but as someone who actually spent the holidays trying Flask apps, I can say that if you master Flask, your life will be a lot easier in scoring points. I think you can score way higher. Okay, so let me just go through how to build a Flask app from ground up with all of the awesome, cool explanations that you guys would probably need. Okay, so step number one, you need to use Python, obviously, to make a Flask app. But other than Python, you're also going to require a HTML file and a folder for templates. Let me explain how you get all of this done. First, you would pull up your File Explorer. Let me just open File Explorer. Both of them are on the same level, which is not good. It's not supposed to be this way. What you're meant to do is create a new folder called templates. And then you take your HTML page and then put it inside templates. The reason why you do this is because when you use Flask on Python, right, Python will go around searching for your index.html or whatever HTML files inside of templates, because it just does that. I think the developers just thought that it would be much more concise and neater if everything was in one place. So yeah, I'm not really sure about the exact explanation behind this, but if you don't do this, the code will throw a tantrum at you and you will lose a lot of marks. So, I think I have to reopen this file. Hold on. What do you want? Why is VS Code taking so long? Open file, templates, index. Open. Okay, so now we have our code files ready, and you can look at kind of the paths to see roughly what's going on. Okay, here's how you would start your Flask project. First of all of the important cool stuff that you need to make your Python project come to life is stored in a library called Flask. And you have to grab all of the necessary tools from that library to actually do stuff to your project. So the library is called Flask, obviously, but we only want to import a certain few things. So in here we could say from Flask import, and we have to do three things. Firstly, we have to import capital letter F Flask, because that allows our app to exist. Then we need to import render template. Render template allows you to display a HTML page. So it allows the Python to basically display the HTML. And then last one is request. So the request thing basically allows us to take information from the HTML and bring it back to the Python side and do stuff with it. Yeah. What? No, not request finish, just request. Autocomplete. Okay, so these are the three things you're gonna need to do. Now, let's look at for example, an app that repeats your name to yourself. Yeah. Okay, so for your app to actually start, you need to write two very important lines of code. One, app equals to Flask bracket underscore name underscore. So what does this actually mean? Why am I writing something that's so weird? So what you're doing here is you're effectively creating an instance of this app Okay, we're creating an active instance of this app. Think of it like a tab. And then you're storing it inside a variable called app. So whenever you access app.run or whatever, it brings this specific instance of the app to life. So that's why in the next line, when you write if name equals to main app.run, what you're effectively effectively what you're saying is, if the instance we are running is the main instance of the app, okay, if it's not a sub instance, if it's the main instance of the app, make the app run, execute it. Yeah, basically what these two lines do is it ensures that you're running the app properly. Yes, you're running the correct instance of the app properly. Okay, if you don't understand what these two lines are, you don't need to. You can just memorize them. If you're slightly more comprehensible, if you can understand programming a bit better, then good for you, I guess. There's no harm in learning why these work. But at a very base level, you need these two lines for your code to run. Now, there are a few things that you need to know about your HTML project. Firstly, your HTML doesn't actually need any code. You can just write hi, and I'll illustrate why, but this hi will effectively be displayed. You technically don't need your doc type. You don't need your doc type, you don't need your HTML brace, you don't need anything, technically. This is considered valid HTML code. And this is because the file itself is a .html file. So when you're returning the render template, which I'll explain later, you legally can just show hi as a singular element inside the index.html file. Basically, if there's no brace inside, the HTML can still display the text. Okay, now let's go back and see how we can actually render our file. So now we've created an instance of the app, but the app doesn't actually show anything. So when your app immediately starts up, it has a certain URL, and that URL has literally nothing else to the end except a slash. Let me explain. So right now the URL for the app is whatever your thing is. I don't remember what it is. It's basically your place for home. And then it would have just a slash. Think of it like google.com/. This slash just means that we're at the home page. We're at the base level. There is nothing added onto it. If you went and did any extra functions like edit or add, then yeah, it would basically kind of redirect a different. Okay, right now if we want to render our first page in Flask, our very basic website that says hi, for example, what we would need to do is display the HTML, and we need to do this in a very specific way. So the app actually relies on this very, very interesting thing to work. Okay, right now, how your app works is the Python tells your HTML to do stuff, and your HTML edits the URL. The Python notices the edit in the URL and then does extra stuff. So right now, when you first land onto your app, why am I getting called from a +62 number? When you first start up your app, you're going to be led to its base page, okay, the root of everything. You're going to be showing the base page of your website or whatever. So for example, assume you loaded onto google.com. Imagine that was your website, which is interesting. Okay, let me just comment this out. If you landed on its base page, it would be google.com/ and then just nothing else. There wouldn't be anything else. But assume you wanted to do a certain function. Then it would redirect you to google.com/add or google.com/edit or whatever, right? So for now, all you need to know is when you start up this app, no matter what your link is, it's going to be whatever slash. It's just going to have this one slash at the end. So how do we do that? Here's how we're going to do this. Firstly, we'll use our app.route. So our app.route basically is the decorator for your function. It checks the URL that the app is currently at, and then it executes the function based on that URL. Assume we have one that has app.route slash, and then it says like def do stuff, I don't know, something like that, and then pass. And then we have another app.url that says do more stuff, and this one is like extra, I don't know, or whatever. So this means when your app.route is initially slash, right, it will do stuff. But if your HTML does anything that changes the URL to slash extra, Python will go, hey, wait a minute, our URL changed. So I have to do the function that's under line 9. I have to do the function that corresponds to app.route slash extra, because now the URL is slash extra. So this app.route basically tells your Python what to do based on the URL. If the URL is just the regular slash, Python knows, oh, I must do stuff. And if the URL changes to slash extra, Python knows, oh, I must do more stuff instead. Alright? Okay, so now that we got that, let's bring it back to a very base level with only one app.route, which is the starting one, which is just slash. This function you can call whatever you want. I don't think you're going to be referencing it much. In here, we have to do this very crucial step, which is return render template, and then in this we type index.html. So what are we doing here? What is this? That looks pretty complicated. Let me explain. What happens if you return anything? When you return anything, you're passing the value back to the computer to do something with it. In this case, when you return the render template of index.html, you are effectively telling the computer, hey, take this HTML code that exists and render the picture version of it. If you notice, whenever you save your HTML file somewhere, you can open it both as text and as a web page. So what you're doing here is telling Python, show this HTML page as a web page. Render it as a web page, not as text, but as a web page. So, if we run this code, which I genuinely hope works. Okay, this should work. I control clicked. What? Control click, bro. Ah, there we go. Let me just bring this over from the other monitor. If we do that, we end up with hi. Wow, that's so cool. That's so quirky and awesome and funny. Dude, Flask is... Anyway, yeah, so it displays hi. It's cool, I guess. If I wanted to display something else, I can make it display something else, whatever. Okay, that's cool, that's awesome. Good job, I guess. Now we gotta worry about something different. Wait. Okay, now we gotta worry about something different. How exactly... Okay, now we're gonna worry about something different. How exactly can we make it dynamically render stuff? So remember how we said, oh, the HTML can edit the link, and based on that editing of the link, it will tell Python to do different things. How do we edit that link? Okay, here's where we actually have to get some HTML down. Obviously, because your exam can't just like okay, in your exam, your markers will eyeball your code. So obviously you need your whatever doc type HTML lah, your HTML brace lah, closing brace, close the brace, Joshua. Anyway, yeah, basically what you're gonna need now is a form, because forms have this very cool function which allows you to change the URL. It allows you to navigate to different URLs. How would we do this? So if you remember correctly, forms have a form tag. This part you have to kind of memorize if you don't know what you're doing. So forms basically require you to do a few certain things. Inside of your form, assume if we want to create a name repeater, we need two things inside the form, two inputs. And another input, hold on. Now, your form itself, we need two things inside that, which is one, action. Action tells you where you want to go. So let's assume you want the new link to be /change. And yeah, you want that to work. Basically, you would have to add that as the text value that you would want action to be. Then after that comes the very important part, the method. The method can be either a get method or a post method. But for now, I'll just teach you post method. So, there is a very, very small change between Python and HTML. In HTML, when you talk about method, it is method. And when you talk about method, it has your string format, basically. Let me show you. It would be like this. Wait, no. Wait, no, it would be like this, sorry. But in Python, if you wanted to receive a method, you would have to use a very different thing. You would have to use methods equals to, and then use this and then use this thing. We won't worry about that now, but just remember, for Python, it's methods. And HTML, it's method. The way to remember this is that Pythons like make the S sound because they're snakes. So it's like methods. If that was funny, please consider donating to your computing rep. I would gladly accept anyone buying tickets for my comedy shows. Yes. Okay. Anyway, so now that we have gotten the action and method down, we need to look at input. So, input. We need two different inputs. One is a submit button. Is a submit button really a submit button? No. What it does is it tells the form to do something. It tells the form, we're done taking in input, do something about it. So what we would do here is we would do input, and within the input, we would put type equals to submit, and then value equals, and then you can add whatever you want. Go, maybe. Maybe I want to add go. This value is just going to be the text. And in the middle, you want to write type equals to text, because now we're taking in text. And the value of this text would be value equals to... Actually, sorry, no, we're not going to add value. We're going to add name. The name of this text, I can't spell. The name of this text would be equal to name, I guess? Or let me just say username, because that will make life a lot more easier for us if we're trying to understand this. So what exactly is name? Name is just what you want the variable to be called that we're storing the input into. So right now what we're saying is, whatever you write in the text field, you chuck it into a variable called username. And then you should be able to edit that in the Python. You should be able to take that and do stuff to it in Python. So right now, if I save this file, let's see what happens. I kill the program, restart the Flask server, I zip on over to my Google Chrome, I reload. Wow, we have a cool looking page. I can type whatever I want and hit go, and it says, what? No, not found? What does not found mean? Well, it means Python doesn't know what to do. Python noticed the URL change and was like, hey wait, we don't know how to handle this. We don't have anything for /change. We don't know what's going on. The URL changed, but we don't know what to do about it. So let's make Python do something about it. So now that the URL has changed, Python understands the URL has changed and will then have to react to it. So now app.url change. We're telling Python, oi, if now the URL is changed, look here, look here. Look at the function here and do the stuff in here. We gotta name this something else, like do new stuff, I guess. In exam, please call this something more interesting. Okay, and then we display index.html again, I guess. But, we technically got something out of the form. We're trying to get a variable out of the form. So how would we go about doing that? This is where we come with the magic of request. What do requests do? Requests basically allow you to grab values from the HTML and take it and store it in Python variables. So let's create a new variable called username. Yay, cool. We want to set this value to whatever this username is. So there's a variable in your HTML called username and a variable in your Python called username. So how do we make the HTML username, take the data from there and chuck it into your Python username? The way we do that is request.form. Request.form, and then inside of this, we add username. This tells Python, yo, look inside the form, inside index.html. Look inside the form there, right? Look inside, look at the form. Take out the variable that's part of a form called username. Take out that variable and give it to me. I request for it, please. Let me put it inside username. So what happens now if we print username? Let's hope this code works. I genuinely hope it does. Okay, we restarted our server. We reload the page. No, go back. I don't want. Let's call it heya, kids. Oh god. Go. Method not allowed. Okay, so you may notice there was a method not allowed error. What does that mean? What does that mean? Well, I mean, let's look at it logically. Let's find out where method is. Method. Oh wait, there's method over here. So remember what I was warning you about earlier? Where method equals to post, methods equals to post. Right now, Python doesn't know how to take in the value. It doesn't know how to grab the value. We don't know if it's a post method, a get method, whatever. So we gotta tell Python to do that. And the way we do that is methods with an S, okay, with an S equals to, and then within square brackets and another brace, post. You just gotta know that in Python, if you want to grab something from the other side, you gotta use square brackets and then string inverted commas. So like how you do that for username, how you do that for post, or how you do that for yeah. And do remember, it's methods, not method. Because Pythons like to hiss. That was not funny, but come on, I'm trying, guys. Okay, so yeah, just keep in mind, when you do this, Python should understand that you want to take it in as a post method. Please work. I genuinely hope this works. Here, kids, go. Bam! Oh, look, the URL changed. It's now /change. But did we actually output anything? Let's go look here. Oh my god, it says hey kids. Oh my god, we are geniuses. We are literally Alan Turing, but like again. We are actual gigachads. We managed to grab input from HTML and display it. We managed to grab HTML input and display it. That is insane. Now, how are we gonna make that display in HTML? That's when we gotta go to our good old friend Jinja. So you know Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Okay, that was not funny either. Let me just get to it. So here's how you would do Jinja. Jinja is a very, very interesting thing because it isn't actually HTML. If you write Jinja in your HTML file and you open the HTML file, not run the Flask script, if you open the HTML file, you will notice your Jinja doesn't work. But if you run the Flask file, it just does. And that's because Jinja is how Python talks to HTML. So now, how we would do this is we would need a very, very simple Jinja command, which is if the way we would talk using Jinja would be using this very, 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 very simple command, which is if. So right now, we need to pass a parameter over. So how would we pass a parameter over to index.html? Let's think about this. Render template allows you to do this very interesting thing, right? Where you can straight up just comma and then throw a variable to the other side. Let's think about this. How are we gonna do this? So right now we have username as a Python variable. What we can do is username equals username. Why are they different colors? Oh my god, why are they different colors? What is going on? This is because right now, this username value, right? Or if you want me to illustrate it even easier, user ID, what this user ID is a variable that Jinja will be referencing. And over here we can call it if user ID. Oops, I need to add my Jinja syntax, which is the stupid percentage signs for some reason. Dude, whoever came up with the Jinja syntax is just a sad, sad human being. Honestly, they probably enjoy doing like sorting algorithms. Anyway, yeah, just like pseudocode, you need an end if. Oh my god. But let's think about this. What exactly are we doing here? We're telling HTML if user ID exists, if we have some sort of value, right? If user ID is a thing, do something. And in this case, render something. Let's just render hi, for example. Over here, what are we doing here? User ID equals username. You're taking that Python variable, we're plucking out the value from there, and we are chucking it into user ID, a completely new Jinja variable that Jinja will be using. Okay, so now let's look at it and try this code. I hope it works. If it doesn't, I am going to be severely disappointed. Bam. Let's go to the server. Let's reload this. No. Let me go back to the main place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Bam. Let's assume we go ASDF. Go. Hi. Okay, it shows hi. What does that mean? It means user ID has been recognized. It means Jinja noticed that user ID exists. Which means now, instead of outputting hi if we received user ID, what if we just output user ID? What do you think will happen there? Let's try. Oh god, I have to kill the server. By the way, in computing exam, I had to create like 20 different PowerShell windows because PowerShell didn't let me Ctrl-C kill it, which is really stupid, but whatever. Okay, now let's go to the main page. We go here. Awesome, cool, awesome, nice, awesome, great. We go here, we add our ASDF, whatever. Go. Bam! It repeated it to us. That is so cool because it realized, yo, we received user ID as a variable. We know it exists, so let's render user ID. Now that is neat. Now let's take a very, very detailed look at it. Right now, in the middle of line 11 and 12, username is a Python variable, which means we can do what we want to it, which I think is really cool. Because right now, we can add different things to it. We can technically do username equals to heya, comma, plus username. We can save this, run over here. Oh god, I forgot, we have to rename this. Why are you like this, Python? Okay, then we reload, bam. So now we do this. And then we add whatever values we want. ASDF, go. Hey, ASDF. If you notice what happened here, that's so cool. We effectively took in username, right? And we edited it using Python. And then we threw it back to Jinja. Jinja grabbed it as user ID and displayed it. How cool is that? Now that is effectively everything you need to know in very simple terms about Flask and Jinja. I will come up with a slightly more complicated tutorial that show a few more Jinja functions, such as for loops, right? But for now, all you need to know is this. This is a very basic level of how Jinja would work. I love teaching, my god. Should I actually like become a teacher when I grow up? I'm so good at this. I got like years of experience, dude. Okay, bye. Weirdly laggy, I guess. Okay, so hi. Today I'm gonna explain how exactly the files talk to each other. So you may be wondering, okay, so how do these files actually talk to each other? Let me explain. What is this duster? There's nothing to it. Alright, so we have our HTML and we have our Python. Okay, so this thing over here, HTML, this thing over here, Python, what effectively, oh god, I think I need to turn on the lights. Okay, so what effectively ends up happening is when you first start your code, right, Python tells you to basically start the Flask app. So it basically says start. Okay, and then after that, what happens is it renders the HTML page. So this causes this to take place. Alright, Python basically says, hey, take this HTML page, give me the return value for render template, which is basically the visual form of the HTML, right? Give it to me and then display it. So that's what's going on. That's why you can see something pop up. Okay, now what ends up happening right after that is your HTML, let's assume we're looking at the web app for the usernames and emails and whatever. So what ends up happening is, in this case, your HTML displays something. It displays something. We don't know what. It could be, in this case, your input, button, submit, whatever. So then, when you say, I want to submit something, remember your form action. The form action will trigger something. So right now, the URL we have is slash. Okay, it's slash, it's nothing, there's nothing inside. But the moment you say, HTML, can I click this button and cause the action? You modify this URL. You're gonna modify it. For example, if you put slash add, for example, it's gonna be slash add. Okay, so this URL is now slash add. Python takes note of it. It goes, the URL has changed. So what do? Well, the decorator catches it. The app.route, oh my god, the app.route has to catch the new URL. It has to realize, we have to look at the slash add URL now, not the regular one. So it conducts its own function, which is whatever, like def add or whatever, the function that allows you to add stuff. So in this case, Python then executes the function inside app.route of, I don't know, like slash add. So you're basically telling Python, whatever is inside this URL, the new URL, do the stuff, and it does the stuff. In this case, it could be, let me find a long list and add elements to the list, I guess. And then what ends up happening is Python then, obviously at the end of the code, after it does whatever list addition it needs, it tells the HTML to return another render template. So in this case, you want to return another, for example, I don't know, a different file. For example, index.html, but with more or a different list into it. List 2, for example, or a modified version of the list. Now what's going to end up happening is you basically have a new file, which all of this has been returned into, and it displays the new file. So what ends up happening is you technically displayed a completely new file. Okay, so what does this mean? This means that the HTML, after rendering a completely new page, will give you more options to do whatever. So if you notice, there is a certain cycle that's going on here. Let me just illustrate this cycle. That's not good. So basically, this is gonna be
render whatever, right? So it's basically do your Flask stuff, Flask start, render whatever, edit URL, and then after that Python recognizes, so it basically changes decorator. And after it changes the decorator, then it moves on to new function, and it renders something completely different. That's the life cycle of what your code is going to be doing. Oh god, I think I have to leave soon, but TLDR, that's what you're going to have to end up doing. Okay, basically just keep that in mind. Oh god, I hope Shop doesn't kill me. Yeah, I'm late. I think this is not good, that is not good, that is not good, not good at all.